Jonni, it's been over a year since we met. I'm from Toronto, he's from Cape Town. We talked a little bit in Toronto about what you wanted to do. I came and visited you in Cape Town almost exactly a year ago. So why don't you tell me about the crazy year it's been with Goodleaf?
Well, it certainly has been a crazy year. I think we met last year in about November. Subsequent to that, we had agreed and planned to launch a CBD brand. I didn't quite realize exactly what it entailed, or I didn't remember from my days at Earthchild the enormity of starting something from nothing. You know, about a year ago, it was really just an idea. We have spent an enormous amount of time on the brand name, the logo, aesthetic, etc., etc. We then launched our first store in about August this year, which is in Batencombe Street in Cape Town. Spent an enormous amount of time on the whole journey in terms of the really customer experience and the retail theatre that we wanted to create. Spent a lot of time considering the customer's experience, and subsequent to that, we've launched the oils. We've now launched a range of topicals, and we have also acquired and enhanced a brand called African Pure.
That's great. You know, when I work with brands, no matter what stage they're at, one of the things I'm usually surprised at is how poor they are at visioning or really understanding where they want to go. But when you and I met, it was about organic African origin. That was the vision. How close are you to that right now?
So my previous brand was Earthchild and Earth Addict, which was a local organic fashion brand. And I felt very strongly, and I do still feel very strongly about ethical and emotional branding. We certainly endeavoring to do that within the new brands, particularly Goodleaf, but we're not there yet. We aren't able to offer the whole organic, really sustainable, CSI, etc. type of journey. But it is our long-term view, it is our long-term vision. Warren, our CEO, and my partner spoke about that earlier in terms of our CSI aspirations. But at the moment, we are focusing really on a retail theatre that speaks to education, speaks to tranquility and honesty. It allows the customer a safe environment to come in to learn about cannabis. They don't really necessarily have to purchase cannabis. We've designed our stores in such a way that there's an area to relax, be seated, read, spend some time with us and just learn more about this whole new world that all of us are learning about. But that also reminds me, Tom, about what you actually spoke about when we first met, and that is the concept of the Trojan horse.
Yeah, the Trojan horse. So Tokyo Smoke was mentioned in the introduction. Tokyo Smoke was a Trojan horse. How do you create a brand in a pre-legal environment, one that would educate, one that would create that space, that welcoming space, a place to start a conversation? How do you do that when you can't actually sell the thing you want to sell? And with Tokyo Smoke, if you heard Lauren talk this morning, or even yesterday, I think he gave the real story of Tokyo Smoke, how it started as a men's fashion brand. And then it slowly morphed into coffee, always with the intent of selling cannabis. That was the goal. So the Trojan horse is all about getting permission to be in places and spaces that you have no right to be. And how can you do that first? How do you plant a big stake in the ground? And when you and I met, that's exactly what I saw in Goodleaf was, let's figure out a way to create the very best Trojan horse, so when you do get to that point of legal, you would be the first choice in the consumer's mind. You are the right person to come to because they've trusted you for everything up to that point. The other thing I think I told you and your team when I met was go as far as legally possible. Selling CBD, selling cannabis lifestyle accessories, that's not illegal. So you could do that without getting into any trouble of being on the wrong side of the law. And that's essentially the Trojan horse strategy.
Well, that's great, because essentially when we were planning the store opening, CBD was illegal. So our plan was really to sell all sorts of paraphernalia which the user could use at home, because the growing and consumption at that point was in fact legal. And our whole marketing story was actually based on we don't break the law. Until a week prior to opening, we changed it all. I mean, absolutely, turned it on its head, because they legalized CBD, and in that we were ready for that change, which speaks somewhat to that whole idea, which I guess, Tom, leads me on to Cannabis 3.0, which is another one of your pearls of wisdom.
Cannabis 3.0, in Canada, where I'm from, they're talking about Cannabis 2.0, which is the legalization of edibles. We've been talking about Cannabis 2.0 as being already in it. 2.0 was about legalization, it was about brands, it was about brand presence. Cannabis 3.0, the holy grail of 3.0, is US federal legalization. But between Canada becoming legal and phasing in and maybe not doing it the right way, and the US becoming federally legal, there may be 20 to 25 other countries around the world that will become legal. And they will learn. I think the LMD speaker talked about learn from our mistakes. So there's a lot that needs to happen. Cannabis 3.0 is about normalization. When you're able to get cannabis in consumer packaged goods. I can get it in my ice cream. I use the French fry example, right? I don't want cannabis French fries, but I might want cannabis ketchup so I can dip my French fry into it, and I decide what the dose is. Normalization is when you go to the Voltop kitchen store and they say, oh, Mr. Katz, would you like the cannabis drawer? And you say, well, what's that? Well, it's thumbprint lock. It fits underneath your spice drawer. It's charcoal filtered. It doesn't smell. Your kids can't get in it. Would you like that? You say yes. That's probably 5 to 7 years from now, but think back 10 years ago when a wine fridge in your kitchen was a really exotic item. So normalization is coming. It's happening. And the way that we consume today, the idea of rolling, smoking, vaping, it will change dramatically in terms of the delivery mechanisms for cannabis in the next 5 to 7 years. And that's where we work. We are upstream. So we look at all the things that are up there. The thing that we talk about as well is the intersection of customer strategy, brand strategy, and business strategy. You can't build a brand without building a business. And customer is really important. You talked about identifying that customer. When we started working, I think we had talked about female, health and wellness. Are those the customers you're actually getting at Goodleaf?
It's been pretty interesting actually, because our store here is in the CBD, excuse the pun. It's definitely destinational, but we're getting a variety of interesting customers. But I guess what we've seen that we weren't expecting is the elderly customer, probably 55 plus, who's looking for further wellness. By means of example, on Friday we had our best trading day to date. We had a bus of elderly ladies who were brought to our store. They spent a significant amount of money because they're starting to understand it, they're starting to really get into it, and I guess they're also starting to appreciate this retail theatre that I spoke about earlier, that really offers you a sense of honesty and really safety.
Now, I'm not sure if they saw your Instagram feed, and that's how they found out about you, but I hold up your Instagram as a very good example, of leading by example. Your feed isn't about aggregating or just commenting or reposting. You guys are looking at sort of a global POV, right? When New York was going legal, you had a post about that. You talked about the questions you're getting from customers and how you're responding. What about CBD at work? Is it okay? What's the story on social or analytics or community? What do you see building out of that feed?
Well, I think really once again it's about actually being really current and also intending to educate on a weekly basis. So we have a schedule which runs from Monday to Saturday. We have certain themes, and we really post according to the themes that we've somewhat pre-agreed in our weekly meeting. And it's all around the essence of what's happening globally and also educating around that. And our social's doing incredibly well. It's organic. We don't buy any followers and things. And it's starting to build incredibly well, and there's starting to be a lot of community, a lot of discussion, a lot of comments. So it's been really good on that front.
The other thing that I was impressed with when I came a year ago was the team. You had a pretty solid group of talented people. I had said there's no reason for me to duplicate what they're doing. I would provide counsel any way I could, maybe shift the direction slightly. But the team, it's gotten a little bigger, it's changed a bit. What's the power of the team?
Look, I think it's a whole new world compared to when I started Earthchild. I mean, I must say, in terms of social media, marketing. But I guess the CEO's job is really to be the pilot, is really not to be the pilot, to allow the team to fly the aeroplane, and for me, really to be the hostess and ensure everybody's either served their beef or chicken accordingly. So I've been absolutely blessed with a wonderful team. Handpicked a lot of them, I must be honest with you. But I think that I feel that the outputs that we've seen here, the outputs on social, the outputs in our store, is really testament to a fantastic group of people who are doing wonderful work. But before we end off, lessons learned that you could share maybe with the audience, lessons that you've seen in Canada that we're still probably going to learn.
Probably the biggest lesson in Canada, and I'm going to caveat this with this is my personal take. Canada legalized the wrong thing. If Canada would have legalized CBD as a health and wellness product, it would have done much better than it has been doing. If they would have said, let's start by distributing CBD, gel caps, oils, the things that you're selling, let's put those into our normal drugstore chains and allow people to consume them in a positive way and see the benefit. That would have been a much easier transition than actually taking the thing that the government had said, no, this is bad, you're gonna end up in jail, and they legalized it. And everybody has talked about the stigma, it's still there. There was no benefit of the plant. It was really just, oh, you're telling me I'm okay to do something I couldn't do forever. So all the positive things were totally ignored. And I've been around the world, and it's amazing how many people say, oh, you're from Canada, is everybody stoned all the time? What happened, 420 every day, you guys all wasted? When it went legal, what kind of day was that? Was everybody stoned on the corner? I tell everybody, nothing changed. It was the same. The people that wanted to consume could consume. One of the data points that's really interesting is that female consumption in Canada since legalization has remained flat at 13%. So, everybody kept saying, well, why is that? We made it legal, we made it easy. Not to sound sexist, but a lot of the females that I talk to don't want to smoke. They don't like the stink. It makes my hair smell. I have to figure out other ways to deal with it. I don't want people knowing that I've been doing it. So until you open up other delivery mechanisms, until you make it more normal, it will never be normal. And we talk a lot about a generation ago, you had to choose, do you want to be different or you want to be normal? And what cannabis has allowed her to do is be different and normal. It's just that it's not coming through in the way to make it normal in terms of consumption. So that's one big challenge. The market, obviously, right now is taking a beating, so that's also difficult. Lauren had too soon, too fast up there. I think a lot of people jumped in. There's still a lot of people wondering about it, questioning, how do I do it? What can I do? I tell people that the power of brands will always be there, and that's evidence of Goodleaf, right? That the power of creating a platform, a brand, a community, a customer, and creating a business out of it, a legitimate business, is very important. Okay? Thanks everyone.